All right, well, we're back for another episode of the Revolution Leadership Podcast. I am Chris, and I'm here with the legendary Josue Ibarra. Josue, it's great to have you on the show, man.
Thanks, brother. It's good to be on.
Yeah, man.
Real quick before you say anything,
Yeah.
I just want you guys to know Chris wrote the book. I just read it. So
legendary
things come from you, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. So yeah, we got Josue here on the show today. Josue, I actually had the pleasure of graduating from business school up at college, and he's a good dude. Were we on the same team together? We were. Josue was my marketing guy.
Yeah.
And now he's killing it, and he's actually leading the school up there right now. So I'd love for you to tell our audience a little bit about kind of who you are, what you do, and what you love doing, man.
Yeah, of course. So my name's Josue Ibarra. If you are reading my name, you're probably saying Josue, but it's pronounced Josue. Yeah, that's true. Me and you graduated together. We had a fun time with your project. He was actually the boss, so that's what I'm saying. I actually read his book, followed his lead. He's the CEO of the project. Yeah, it was a lot of fun, man. We had good people on our team too.
We did.
But so what I do there now at the school is I'm the business school coordinator at Charis Bible College. I'm also the Pastor of Ministries at Freedom Church, and I host a podcast called The Heavy Revy Show, which actually I got inspired in the name by Chris. And I'm not even just saying that. Generally, when you listen to podcasts or different things like that, you're like, yeah, no, you really gave me the inspiration of The Heavy Revy Show. So yeah, man, that's what I do.
That's awesome. I totally forgot about that. That's awesome, dude. We're gonna have to do a podcast together on that.
Yeah.
Oh man. So yeah, it's a little. Thanks for the intro, man. Appreciate that.
Of course, man.
So we're here just talking about leadership principles.
Yeah.
You know what? I would love to hear from you. And I'm sure you got some great stories here from this last year.
Yeah.
But just what are some stories or life experiences that you've had pertaining to leadership that you'd like to kind of tell us that could maybe impart some wisdom into the next generation of upcoming leader?
Sure, man. I mean, I think, leadership is such a big, term. I mean, it's so broad. You can go into so many different things on leadership. And really, for those who are listening that are young leaders and that are, you really want to go after it, I'm super excited for you. Seriously, I wish I would have pursued leadership more at my younger age. It really didn't dawn on me until I came out here to Charis. Ben Eichels, shout out Ben if you ever watch this. He was the junior high youth pastor at Charis Christian Center, and I remember just working under him for a little bit. Him and Chad Tips.
Tipsy.
And Tipsy Tips,
I
dude.
know, Chad.
Hey, dude, that dude's a freaking legend on the electric. But
he's insanely good.
He's also a good youth pastor.
Yeah.
And so with that. I remember Ben Eichels, basically, he threw the book, John Maxwell, at me, Developing the Leader Within You.
Yep.
And I remember reading through that, and it just changed my life. And with that, I just pursued it, fully. And all those things to say, I think, one of the cool things in my journey, if I just self-reflect, is just being faithful with the little that God gives you. And for those who are not spiritual, I mean, again, the principle still applies. Just be faithful with whatever you have. It may not be where you want to be, but if you stick with it, man, God promotes you. And it's awesome. Truly, if you stay humble and you just stay committed to the little things, starting, at Charis as just a volunteer, and all I did was, vacuum, sweep, and just, pick up and stack chairs and stuff like that. And it's cool because even in that journey, I ended up being able to be like a junior high pastor for a little bit. And, I got to leave in great terms and join Freedom Church and help out there as their youth pastor, then Pastor of Ministries, then, on my, way to business school coordinator, all these different things. And so all that to say, those of you who are listening, one big leadership takeaway or just one cool story with that is just be faithful, man. Be faithful with what you have. Because really leadership, what I'm thinking, Chris, and you probably have some stories on this too, just that leadership is not based on any title that you have. It's just who you are and how you act and respond.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
You don't have to have the title, director. You don't have to have the title jefe, which means boss. I'm fronting too. I don't even speak Spanish. This is but you know what I mean? You don't have to have the title, man. It's just how you operate and connect well with people. But yeah, man, that's kind of my feel on leadership and just the story. I don't know, man. Tell me something that you want to hear. Like what specific story or something?
Sure. I mean, anything. Is there any kind of I don't know, like for me, so full disclosure here, it's a little cheesy, but I was really inspired, like, from not necessarily just leadership, but just in general. Like, I loved cartoons and comics and stuff growing up.
Okay.
So, I mean, Captain America, dude, when Captain America came out, I watched Captain America so many times because I was like, hey, even though this guy's fictional, there's still principles that apply in what he's doing. So, like, I love the story of Captain America because, I mean, as you can tell, see we got all the red, white, and blue. I'm repping the flag and everything here.
Come on.
But I mean, I love that story because even though it's fictional, it still contains, truths that are eternal.
Right.
Leadership stories from grandpa, whatever. So even if maybe not a story even, but just maybe what's an example maybe you've seen of good leadership? What's like a person or two that you look up to that maybe that inspires you?
Yeah. Well, I think I would start with my dad. My dad's a pastor, and so like he was just really good at making hard decisions, really good at connecting with people, loving on people. And that's one aspect in leadership that I've really grasped from him is, the old shake the hands, pat the backs, but genuinely mean that, you know what I mean, and genuinely care for that person. Because, I don't know, sometimes I can understand, and you guys probably understand this too as a young leader, sometimes you may see things that are gaps or some things that need to change, and you get frustrated with what's in front of you. And sometimes, you think, well, it's all on the boss. The boss has to make the decision. The boss has to make the change. But really, to me, it doesn't matter title-wise. It's just, what is your influence? How can you make the influence or get people to buy into what you're believing in or what you're seeing it? And so kind of tying it back to my dad, again, one of the things that really inspired me in what he did was just, he was good with people. So if you're good with people are just going to buy in. They're going to naturally gravitate towards you. Yeah. I have a lot of friends. I don't know. So Chris showed me this awesome place, by the way. Man, your guys' Leadership Institute is phenomenal. Seriously, man. Like, thanks, man. Those of you who are listening, you guys need to plug in and get connected. And they're the real deal. I mean, you guys are really making disciples. What it looks like, and the people here are just so friendly. But I'm saying all that to say, they had like this poster of all people's different kind of personality types and different things like that. And so I don't know if you ever took the Enneagram.
I did.
Okay.
I did. Yep.
What'd you come out as?
I think I was an 8.
An 8?
Which is like
that's awesome.
Isn't that like the most loathed Enneagram type?
I actually no, I kid you not. You can ask Eddie. Eddie's watching with me. I love 8s. Okay. 8s are literally my favorites. A lot of people don't like 8s because 8 in the Enneagram is like people who are challengers, right? So again, I'm tying all this back to, again, leadership principle from my dad, being good with people, right? So Enneagram 8s are challengers, and that's what the story is actually going to bring up.
Okay.
I know of a lot of 8s that want to get things done, but they push the agenda a little too hard, right? They're not generally good with the people tactics or patient to get the buy-in and take some time. Like, I have someone who's working with me at Freedom, and I remember she was like basically telling me like, man, you see all these changes this way, like, why don't we just go in and just do it? And it's like, you gotta get the buy-in. You gotta work with people to trust you, or you can slowly, you can't turn the Titanic on a dime. You know what I mean? Like,
it's good.
Slowly and being patient with what you have, and so eventually those changes do come to pass. So I'm saying all that to say, like, for my dad, just good people skills, man. Because again, you need good people skills in leadership, because if you don't have it, you can have all the good ideas in the world. I have a lot of friends who are 8s. I told you, that's why I love Chris, man, because we're 8s.
We have to force ourselves to slow down, which is why we're drinking coffee.
But no, honestly, I would say this, man. Even when we were in business school and you were doing your project, you were a pretty healthy 8.
Thanks, man.
No, seriously, like most 8s are pretty aggressive, and you're sweet, man.
Thanks, bro.
Like honey wine or something.
Appreciate it.
Like,
I know.
But all that to say, like, man, you have to be good with people, man, because again, you can be right even.
Yeah.
You can be right. But if you're not good with people, people won't buy in. And that's the thing. Like, I saw that interview with you and Clay, and you kind of quoted Maxwell on that too. It's like, if no one's following you, you're just going for a walk. You're not really leading. You know what I mean?
True.
So yeah, that's a pretty cool story, man. Let me hear something from you, man. Tell me about your grandpa. I know you mentioned him a couple times, even prior before.
Yeah. So my grandpa's cool because he's not So when people think of leaders, they think of the guy in front who's like, the man.
The big speech.
Yeah, the extrovert, whatever. My grandpa's not really like that. My grandpa grew up in Canada, and he basically bootstrapped himself into success.
Wow.
So, I mean, he grew up, I'm probably botching exactly the details, but basically, wintry cold, freezing cold, in like a trailer or something, shoveling snow all the time, and he ended up coming to America, meeting my grandma, who's from Holland.
Wow.
But one of the things I loved about him is, he, like I said, he was an engineer. So he's got an engineering mind. He's very technically minded.
Okay.
And he worked for Northrop for a while, just working on planes. And one of the things in retrospect, when I was younger, that I saw from him was his passion for planes. And it was never, again, we think of passion like this, rah, like burning fire. It's not the way my grandpa is. My grandpa shows his passion in his attention to detail. Yeah. And I picked up on that because I remember coming, they had this big basement up in Monument, and he had this jacuzzi that they put like a big cover on, and then every year he would build this huge, not diorama, but basically like a whole, like a town, like this whole town, like he like hand built it.
Wow.
And he'd buy stuff like from different craft stores, and it was this huge micro city that he built by hand with like a running train and like electricity and stuff everywhere. And he just spent so much time pouring his time and effort into that thing.
Yeah.
And what I learned was it sounds funny to be talking about that with leadership, but I like to follow people who are excellent and who love what they do. And even if it's not their career, people who are passionate about something or another. Yeah. And so it's cool because that's kind of evolved into now I'm actually looking into aviation, looking into getting my private pilot's license and, awesome. That kind of thing. With Corey, a mutual friend of ours. And a lot of that is because my grandpa was so interested in aviation when I was a young kid. And that translated itself into a passion into my heart. It feels kind of like a legacy for our family. But it wasn't something that he led, like, go be an aviator or go, whatever. It was just I followed him because innately I saw his desire and his love for planes.
Right.
So for me, I think good leadership also it's a very internal thing. Yeah. If you can't, I mean, it sounds cheesy, but it's true. Like if you can't lead yourself, you're not going to lead anyone else. Right. So what that showed me is that he was comfortable enough with what he was passionate about that he was okay with following that passion. And a lot of times, people aren't cool with following passion within them. A lot of times, people are like, oh no, I need to be, let's say, responsible, or this isn't something practical, so I'm going to spend my time just making money, or maybe it's too risky, so I'm not going to follow that. So I think a lot of times leadership starts even more close than we think. Yeah. And that's within the relationship within ourselves. We're being able to relate to our own passion in our own heart and follow that. Yeah. You know what I mean?
No, that's so good, man. And like, even hearing that, one thing I'll throw out as advice on leadership, guys, is even your relationships with people. Like I can tell your grandfather left a thumbprint on you, man. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I'm sure there's other things in life, that he's left a thumbprint on you. And same with my dad. And so like, I understand there are probably some who are like, I don't have that. You're probably thinking, I don't have that good influence. My parents are jerks. My grandparents aren't around or whatever. And so for those of you who are in that, I encourage you to plug in somewhere. Maybe somewhere like here. Those of you who are just listening, I'm talking about the 5 Revolution.
Close enough.
Revelation.
Have
you read
too.
it? No?
Have you read? No, I'm just kidding. Freudian slip.
But no, like seriously, find someone that you can connect with and really just draw from. Because again, it's true. Like whoever you're around, that's what you'll become in your leadership. Again, my dad, he was very people oriented. So of course, I'm going to gravitate towards that. He was also very humble. I'm going to gravitate towards that. I'm humbly saying that, by the way, that I'm humble. But no, man. Like seriously, like it's really cool. And just even what you were saying, like finding the discoveries within yourself, the passions that you love, and that's the deal. Like you really got to follow that passion in your heart, man. Like here's a story for you, right?
Yeah.
Fat man on a horse.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Fat man on
Sounds
a horse. this, big man was, excuse me, I'm pretty big too, so I can say it, you know what I mean? Whatever. Anyways, this fat guy, as he's riding on the horse, he rides into town and everyone sees him, and they're pretty much making fun of him, like, oh my gosh, he's going to break the horse, or like, look at that horse, he's sweating, like, oh my gosh, they're really grilling this guy. So he gets off the horse, he does his business, and then he walks to the next town, pulling his horse. Walking to the next town, and it's far, basically the soles of his shoes are gone, he's tired, he's drenched, and people in the next town is like, this guy's an idiot, like, he has a horse, why isn't he riding the horse? That's what the horse is there for, that's a strong horse. All that to say, no matter what you do, people are always going to say stuff. No, end of the day, man, people are going to comment or say different things, and so there are some of your passions that, and I believe this as a believer, as a Jesus follower, that there are some of your guys' passions that are God-given, and you need to pursue it. And some people will think you're crazy. Chris, I bet you people thought you were crazy for going to a Bible college.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I know some of my friends thought I was ridiculous. I wanted to go play football, and that was something that I was good at and had a passion at, but ended up switching over, and they're like, dude, you're a waste, man. Like, you're throwing talent away, man. You should pursue this. And again, no matter what you do, people are going to comment. They're going to say different things. And that's one thing, tying it to leadership too. Man, sometimes you just got to make a decision in leadership. When those opportunities come towards your way as you advance in leadership. And again, people aren't always going to be 100% agreement with you. People will comment and say that was the dumbest decision you ever made, or that was a dumb choice. But you can't let that affect you, man. If you don't live for the applause, you won't die by the booze,
Yep.
So anyways, I don't know how we got off on that. But,
that's good, man.
All that to say, fat man on a horse.
Fat man on a horse. You'll never forget it.
Right.
No, that's good, man. You said something earlier that kind of struck a chord with me, but you were talking about influence, and you said something to the effect of, you're responsible for the influence that you have. And I think that's super important because people, I think it's easy for people to think, I'm a leader when I get this. Or I'm a leader once, like you said, once I've been given the title. Well, the truth is everyone has been given some amount of influence, whether that influence is over a country or just with yourself and each person that you meet every day.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think it's important to be able to learn to steward that influence that you have and learn to recognize the influence that you do have.
Right.
Because I think also people make the mistake of assuming that they have influence somewhere that they don't.
Ooh,
you know what I mean?
That's good, yeah.
It's like just because, I'm a musician or something doesn't mean that I have the authority or the influence to run up on stage when my favorite band's playing. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's super important to be able to recognize the influence that you have and know where it's at and how to use it.
Right.
So it's good.
No, it's good, man. It makes me think of 3 things that you really just hold on to, especially if you're young in leadership, is one, the hunger, the drive to want to grow in it. You know what I mean? Because here's the thing, when you're hungry, you don't need a title. You know what I mean? When I was at Freedom Church and just started out there, I was the student pastor. Now being in this role, I pretty much help Pastor Joe and Tessa with their executive team and kind of leading that team. And to me, I would see like the Paul Milligan to Andrew, pretty much, right?
Yeah.
Run the operations side of those things. And here's the deal. I just bought buy-in with each of those executives even before I was a POM, before I was the Pastor of Ministries.
Yeah.
I was just a student pastor. You know what I mean? And you don't need the title, but have the hunger to want to grow in your leadership, not in an ambitious way to yourself. And that's one thing I'll say about ambition and hunger. It's not wrong to be ambitious, even as a Christian. Sometimes we think as Christians, no, you got to be timid, you got to be soft. No, be hungry. I remember when the disciples were fighting over who was going to sit next to Jesus, or basically talking about being in leadership, right?
Yeah, right.
Jesus rebuked them, but he didn't rebuke them for being ambitious. He rebuked them for what they wanted to, how they were going about it.
Yeah.
And so that kind of leads to the second thing. It's like, okay, I know we're not teaching, we're just talking here, right? But all this to say, like, okay, I'm hungry, I'm ambitious, but then the second thing is just the servanthood, really being humble, man. Yeah. If you're humble, God will promote you. End of the day. I truly and firmly believe that. I've met people that are not even Christians, but that operate in humility, and they have moved up in advance.
Yeah.
Kind of deals with people, people skills. People are much easier to open up to someone who's humble than someone who's very arrogant and, thinks they know their stuff.
Yeah.
And, it's just something to be cautious of. So operate in that humility. And as you do that, again, a practical skill or practical advice I would give to somebody when you're learning something or you're operating in leadership, whatever book you're reading, find ways to apply it, man. For me, after coming out of business school, I immediately loved what Stephen Flores was doing, what Corey was doing in the consulting world.
Yeah.
So I literally called up all my friends that were doing business, and I said, "Can I just sit down with you? Can I just sit down with you and just pick your brain on your business and maybe just share some things from what I'm learning in school?" Cool. Okay. Started doing that. Started doing that with Freedom Church. Started doing here or there, and again, it ended up turning. And I did it for free a lot of times, and now I'm at the place where people are willing to pay to sit down and just have, kind of a consulting kind of deal, right?
Yep.
But where does that come from? That comes from just being, again, super humble, but also comes from the drive of pushing forward towards it, And the last thing is just patience, man. Be patient, patient in your pursuit, patient in going after it, patient in just the little things that he's given you. You know what I mean? And if you're faithful in those little things, he'll explode it. Like just seeing your life, Chris, man, just being faithful in you, just developing yourself. And you're hitting on this, which is so true, man. Like you can try to build teams, you can try to build a company, you can try to build a church, but at the end of the day, if you don't build yourself, you're not going to stand, So again, coming to that patience of just working on yourself too.
It's good. It's funny because almost sounds contradictory, saying be patient but be passionate.
Yes.
Well, how the heck are you passionate and patient at the same time? Doesn't passion mean like let's go, let's get it done? There's a quote that I love, and it's I think it was Joseph Prince who said it, but he talks about how being what spirit inspired rest is, and what true rest is, and rest is not inactivity, but rather true Sabbath rest is actually spirit inspired activity. Wow. And what that means is that you can be doing something with all of your heart and going for it and be totally burnt out. You can also be doing not a lot if you have a relationship with God and he tells you just chill out. Yeah. All right. Well, that's what you need to be doing in that moment. And that is the activity that he's called you to do in that moment. At the same time, if he calls you to do something and it's like if he calls you to be president or whatever, and that that's what's up, and you go for that, you can still be internally at rest and carry that rest with you. So it's not a matter of, passion equals nonstop activity. Right. And rest doesn't mean inactivity. Right. But it's finding the spot, being able to be internally restful and, calm, but doing what you're supposed to be doing that aligns with what you're called to do. Yeah. So, all right, if you had a fortune cookie company, okay. What is one or two things that you would print on the inside of a fortune cookie pertaining to leadership, or let's just say anything that you've heard that you could carry with you that would be sage advice?
Nice. Well, one, again, quoting back to my dad, he would always tell me a winner's a loser who never quits, and a loser who is a winner who just gave up.
That's good.
You know what I mean? And so, I don't know, that fortune cookie, someone needed to hear that, all right? So pop that open and read that real quick.
Write
Two
it down.
times, three times, right? And the numbers on the back is 5, 7, 2, 1, 3. I'm just kidding. But all that to say,
that's my birthday.
Oh my goodness! But all that to say, man, seriously, even in kind of coming back to being hungry and being patient, the hunger side of, again, a winner's a loser who never quits. Again, people, we can look at all the amazing leaders in our lives, or even people that aren't necessarily in our lives, but we read their content where all these different things. I'm telling you, I am excited to know more about your story, and for you to know more about mine. But we didn't just come here overnight. Right. We didn't land in our spots overnight. It took time, and there were painful moments. There are moments, and I'm sure you feel the same, bro. Where you just wanted to quit, or you just wanted to stop, or you didn't want to pursue anymore, and it's But man, you keep going after it. You, again, hunger and patience. You're patient, and as you're pursuing, you become that winner, because again, you only lose when you quit.
Yeah.
End of the day.
Yeah.
So if you continually pursue it and you're humble in the sense of, Lord, wherever you have me, okay, you know what? Fine. The way my leadership, I'm not at the boss or the jefe at work, but you know what? I have my brothers and sisters. How can I bring influence to my brothers and sisters here, right? And I'm talking actually like your blood relative, right?
Flesh and blood.
Okay, yeah, I know. We talk Christian, then it's like, hey, brother or sister. No. But whatever you have, man, I'm proud. My bro Eddie's here with me, and I'm so proud of seeing him and what he's growing at. I'm gonna write through him the challenge of, hey, be our set up and tear down lead at church.
There you go.
Most people just think like that's not leadership, man. That's just doing. But now he's getting to the place, and he's at the place where he's not even doing. By the way, if you want to read a good book, read E-Myth Revisited.
Yes.
I love the fact that you have this on your whiteboard.
Oh yeah.
You guys can't see it. But there's three types of people. You have your entrepreneur, who's a big visionary, your manager, who creates the process and steps, and your technician, who just does.
Yep.
And Eddie, he's not the technician of set up and tear down. He's literally the entrepreneur in the sense of
that's awesome.
He has two guys that work under him that set up his, the setup side, and you have one guy who does the tear down side, and those guys run with their teams. And so again, all that to say, he took something that's very minor, and you can view it as, it's nothing, man. Set up and tear down. All right, he just wants me to set up and tear down. But you can be hungry in the sense of, okay, this is what I have. I'm going to apply leadership to this. I'm going to do it. And you can grow to the place of where now he's, I always, point at Eddie. He's our set up and tear down guy. And people are like, whatever, dude. That dude doesn't even do anything. Well, why? Because he's over it. You know what I mean? He's actually leading it. So that's one thing.
That's good. I second that. If you haven't read the E-Myth, read it. It's a little bit of a hard read. Kind of, it gets a little monotonous there, sort of in the middle, but it's really, really good. So anyone who's interested in business principles, really anyone who wants to grow in their knowledge of how to be really anything, E-Myth is a bomb book. Read it for sure.
Yes.
So
the second thing, if and I know time wise, but second thing I pull out my fortune cookie would be by 4. If you think you can or if you think you can't, either way you're right. I live with that, man.
That's
seriously
good, dude.
Again, I remember, and I was talking to an ex at the time, but I remember being in business school, and I saw Stephen Flores up there, and I just remember seeing to myself, I can see myself being up there.
Yeah.
I can see it. And again, being patient in the sense of, I'm not telling everyone that, but in my heart I can see it,
Good.
And I only told one person, and now I'm able to walk through and just live that, you know what I mean? And so it's like, it's really cool. And again, it's not even the end for me. There's a lot of things in my heart, but again, I'm just being hungry and patient right now with what God has given me. And here's the deal, as the more you're patient and faithful with what God has given you, He's going to give you more tools. Being in school with you, Chris, I've heard a lot of different visionary things that is in your heart, man, and it's huge.
Yeah.
Seriously, guys, it's huge. The whiteboard that he has in his room isn't big enough. Even the whiteboard we were at with the 3 different things, I don't know if you can drop that in the photos or not. But anyways, it's a big whiteboard. But there's more, man. There's so much more. But as you're faithful, even just with this, your interviews, your communication, and all the awesome things you do, he's a professional butt kicker.
I don't know about that.
So all that, it's like, man, he's going to increase you continually, man.
Yeah, it's good, dude. Awesome. Well, bro, if people want to get a hold of you, find out more about what you're doing, or want to ask you questions, or find out about Freedom Church or Bible College or whatever, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Just follow me on Instagram, Josue.Ibarra7, and
awesome.
I'm sure it's going to be in the show notes.
I'll stick it in the show notes below. But good, man. Dude, thank you for your time, man. It's a pleasure. It's so good seeing you again. And maybe I'll make a guest appearance on your show. No pressure. But
no, maybe.
I would love it. I would love it, man. But it's good to have you on the show.
Awesome, brother. Thanks.
Yeah. All right, that wraps it up. We'll see you guys again next time.